Nobody beats G.I. Joe. G.I. Joe Phantom X-19. Sleek and mean and flying so fast it can't be seen.
Hello folks, welcome back to the 80s Toy Museum, and today taking a look at some vintage G.I. Joe. G.I. Joe is here, and it's a big boy today. 1988's G.I. Joe Phantom X-19 Stealth Fighter with, what was his name again? GHOSTRIDER. I'm just going to say it because so many people don't get the joke. Here's the joke, and it won't be funny once you explain it. In the comic book, they weren't allowed to call him GHOSTRIDER because Marvel already had a GHOSTRIDER character. So to get around it, Larry Hama had no one be able to remember his name. So they called him old what's-his-name, and I've been doing that joke for, I don't know, many years now, and every time I do the joke, so many people go, his name is GHOSTRIDER. Thanks for that information. And there's a look at GHOSTRIDER in the cockpit with one of the Battle Force 2000 guys. In behind him, he's got his own cool little symbol, logo. So many cool little touches in the old vintage G.I. Joe toy line like that. Blasting away, and it just so happens that the Phantom is sitting right there on the USS flag right next to the setup. So let's have this cruise right over to the table, and let's kick it off with the pilot, GHOSTRIDER figure, who didn't come with any accessories other than, very rare for a vintage Joe, a soft goods accessory, the scarf tied around his neck. Makes him look like a real old school pilot. No removable helmet. I guess that could be a positive, one less thing to lose. Those accessories with the original drivers and pilots can go for quite a bit, like the weapon that came with Keelhaul, just a tiny little silver pistol, but goes for a heck of a lot because they were only included with Keelhaul. So this guy not having any other things to lose is always a plus, and this is easily replaced too if it got lost or worn away or dirty, schmutzy. Just any piece of red cloth will do. And one detail I really like about this figure is he's got the map on the leg, similar to Wild Weasel. He's got black leather jacket, black gloves, green visor on his helmet. I generally like to put the anniversary figures in the vehicles for my display. I like having these guys just standing on a shelf all lined up. I think they look all nice lined up, but in terms of the vehicles, I like how the 25th anniversary figures look with the way the extra range they have. Not necessarily always more articulation, but extra range means they can grip things like steering wheels, control sticks a little better. And so there was a G.I. Joe Club exclusive GHOSTRIDER figure, which they hilariously scratched out the name GHOSTRIDER. So there was a Club GHOSTRIDER. I never got it because I just didn't like how puffy he looked. He looked very puffy. And so I put one together myself using the Hawk figure from the G.I. Joe Pit playset from Rise of Cobra as a base. So that's the legs, the black leather jacket. I grabbed the black gloves from someone else because I think that Hawk had flesh-colored hands, and I don't remember who I grabbed this rig from, but he's got a pistol on the side there, little ammo pouch. This looks like it was taken from another original GHOSTRIDER. Don't think I made this one. Looks identical. And then the helmet, you can get a silver helmet, silver little microphone, and green visor from Marauder Gunrunners. And the nice thing about the Marauder helmet is that it can actually pull in. It's a little tricky just because of the size of the head that I stuck it on, but you can either have the visor down or up. And then which head did I grab? I don't know. That's another Marauder head. I figure that's maybe what he looks like. There's different representations of what he looks like. There's one in the comic. That might be the comic look I went for. And the cockpit of the Phantom can hold two, much like the Sky Striker. So you can put your main pilot in wherever you want, and this is incredibly tricky right here. And you actually have a little better luck. There's just no room to get your finger in there, especially the anniversary figures. Get them to grab the control sticks. And so this front canopy part can be pulled off, but it's not really meant to be, especially repeatedly. There is a little attachment right there. My landing gear is going in right in there. So you can pull the whole thing off if you want to get the guy in there nice, but just for the purpose of this video, I'm going to stick the vintage guy in there, and it's such a tight squeeze in there. It does have a strap which can go over the shoulder and plug into this hole right here, which is, again, there's no space, especially for adult fingers. This was so much easier back in the day. Would have loved to have had this jet back in 1988. I never had the Sky Striker, so when this came out a few years later, that was the jet I wanted, because the Sky Striker was no longer available in stores. And I thought, well, it's my chance to have some giant G.I. Joe jet. And I'm going to have a side-by-side with the Sky Striker in a few minutes to show you that this thing is humongous. It is colossal. And then there's a spot for another pilot in behind. Seems to me like it would make more sense if the rear cockpit was the one that operates the weapons, because there's just like a lot more weaponry looking stuff in there. And that's another custom figure I've made from Marauder Gunrunner parts. Yes, it does have a Canada logo. That's another thing I've been saying for many years on the channel, that G.I. Joe vehicles in Canada came with Canada and the Canadian flag on them. And let's take a look at some of those weapons. It's got a missile on either side, and this is actually one of the things I didn't like about this back in the day. As much as I wanted it, I thought, oof, the color that they chose for these missiles, this lime, almost neon green. Neon before they started to go real neon with everything. Not just the missiles, because that's easily taken off, put something else on, maybe fit another missile in there, but this lime green interior to it. I've seen some fan repaints of this thing, and it looks a million times better without the lime green on the inside there, and then the lime green on the back. That's the biggest eyesore of the whole thing. And if that wasn't enough, it's got some weapons that deploy from the side wings. All you got to do is pull that out like that. When you pull the wing out, the gun is supposed to pop up, but they decided to go with that lime green again. So there's unity all throughout the whole thing, the repetition of the lime green, but that doesn't really make it better. And the other wing opens up too, and they kind of want to fall in. It's also got these guns right here, but they don't do anything. They don't pop in or out. They just sit there, and they are visible whether this side part is in or out. There's some flaps on the back here, which just rise up, drop down. Not sure if they're supposed to lock into place. This thing is extremely fragile, so if you do get one after never having had one, I would really recommend being very careful and not forcing anything on this, because it was fragile to begin with, and then it's very brittle now. It's quite an old toy. And then it's got some landing gear, which, like the Sky Striker, can be automatically deployed by pushing. Here we go. So these back engines right here, if you push them in, the landing gear closes up, and these flaps kind of don't want to close just because there's a bit of a bend in the plastic here to open the flaps. And if you have them deployed for a very long time, they just kind of want to stay open because of that bend. A lot of people who have these recommend not having the landing gear deployed if you've just got it sitting on a shelf or on your flag, because it can't really take its own weight. It's not as bad as the old Defiant back there, but it does have a bit of weight to it, and the landing gear is pretty flimsy. So to deploy the landing gear, there's this, you can either grab the engines or there's this tab back here, which is probably a better way of doing it. And those are fantastic. Got some husky hair on there. Really good, smooth deployment right there. Cool looking wheels too. Quad wheels on them, and with a little bit of back and forth to them, but man, they are really fragile. You got to be extremely careful whenever you're setting this thing down. I would not recommend even rolling it around. It feels really flimsy. It's big, and that's pretty much all it has going for it. These side things come out, which give it like a tiny bit more wingspan, but it's really not. I mean, it's nothing like the Sky Striker, the way the wings on the Sky Striker can open up and really add to its wingspan. But that is a tiny little thing that really doesn't make that much of a difference. And I actually got them both to fit on the old Smooth Raoul, the Sky Striker beside the Phantom. They're very, very close in size. Phantom has got a bit more girth to it, but like I said, it doesn't really do much. Whereas the Sky Striker, these wings, still fun to do this after all these years. Being able to move the wings in and out. It sucks that they're connected to the landing gear, but just being able to change the appearance of the toy that much is a huge bonus. It's always pretty boring when you just have a giant toy that doesn't do anything. That's the cool thing about big Transformers. They have different modes. Even the Defiant, it's nice that it can open up. The USS Flag, as awesome as it is it just sits there. It doesn't do anything. It holds other toys, which is nice, but I've always liked it when big toys can do something, and the Phantom, as nice as it looks, it is unfortunately just one of those toys that just sits there, and there's not much you can do with it, and what you can do with it, you have to be extremely careful. So that's your look at the 1988 G.I. Joe Stealth Fighter, Stealth Bomber. I always called it the Stealth Bomber, which reminds me, I forgot to show you one of the other weapons on it. Kind of an underwhelming thing. So it's not like I'm saving the best for last year, but these little bombs, they had these weird things on them that could slide in and attach underneath. That feels really loose for some reason. Oh, there we go. A pair of them, and once again the bright neon on them. So just compared to the Sky Striker, it's like in every possible way this thing comes up short when you compare it to the 1983 Sky Striker. And I'm sure a lot of people who bought this back in the day, if they didn't have a Sky Striker, would feel like I would have rather had a Sky Striker, but those weren't on the shelves and this was. And maybe even people who had both, you'd have to concede that the Sky Striker was better than this. But it was definitely something. That's definitely a toy there. I think this is one of those G.I. Joe vehicles that's looks better in pictures. I'd stare at the pictures in the catalog for a long time, hoping hoping one day to get one of these back in the day, but I gotta say it's one of the least cool looking G.I. Joe vehicles compared to all the other ones. The Sky Striker beats it for sure. I had a Conquest as a kid, and I mean, if you want to talk about not being able to do anything, the Conquest does nothing. But, you know, it just kind of felt sturdier. You could play with it more. If I had this, I definitely would have broken it as a kid. And then to compare it to some of the Cobra vehicles, got a Night Raven up there somewhere. Night Raven blows this thing away. You can see the nose of it peeking out. The Rattler, I never had one as a kid, and I'm sure a lot of people would say even a Rattler is better than this thing. I would go with this thing over a Rattler, but that's just because Rattler's never been one of my favorites, and the Rattler is extremely fragile. At least the front landing gear is extremely fragile, so I'd go with this giant mass of plastic. If you want to see some more G.I. Joe content, I've got a poll up right now on Patreon, patreon.com/Michael Mercy, and they're voting on what the next classified review is going to be. So I've got a couple of cool classified deluxe, or whatever they're called, box sets of figures that I haven't opened yet. So whenever that's decided, that'll be the next Patreon exclusive. Thanks so much to everyone who supports the channel on Patreon. Got hundreds and hundreds of free videos here on the YouTube channel, nearing 1,000 I think. So plenty of free stuff for people who don't want to join the Patreon or can't, but if you're one of the people who goes above and beyond to support the channel, there's over 200 Patreon exclusives on there for you to enjoy as a thank you for going above and beyond to support my work here on the channel. And also thank you to everyone who hit the join button to become a channel panel member, which gives you the custom emojis and the rank badges, which increase in time the longer you're a channel member. So thank you to all those folks again who support the channel. And thank you watching this right now at home. Hope you enjoyed this look at the G.I. Joe Phantom X-19. Sorry I couldn't be a little more enthusiastic about this thing, but it's lacking nostalgia, because I never had it, and it's also lacking in structural integrity in a couple of key places, but you know, it's still a cool vintage G.I. Joe vehicle. It's still extremely cool to have. I'd rather have this than a lot of the more recent stuff, like some of the Rise of Cobra or Retaliation vehicles they put out. It's still vintage and still has that charm to it. So thanks for watching, and until next time, good night, good luck, God bless, and Nerdmas Day.